One question regarding the kind of power of Pfizer in the pharmaceutical industry. Has this whole episode and what's happened to you as a result made you more anxious and worried about the power of the pharmaceutical industry? Because it seems incredible from just some of the tactics you were talking about there.
I think it's made me more fearless.
What's going on? Coach Colin here, coolest high performance coach in the world. And if you want the best takes on the videos and podcasts you love, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. I am tired. It is 1 a.m., but I woke up, saw my phone, and saw something very interesting that happened. And that is Russell Brand and James O'Keefe. They sat down together. It was brief, but it was informative, and I'm here to bring it all to you guys right now. So what they talked about was, let me go over it here. I got it written down. The latest sting that James got ousted for. James announces his new venture, which I've gone over with you guys just today. It's OMG, O'Keefe Media Group. If you have not heard, check out the website. And the fact that there is a whistleblower still on the inside of that certain pharmaceutical company, and that more is coming out very soon. So that was very interesting. They talk about that. They also touch on Debbie Bernal. So she was the whistleblower who outed herself.
Freedom comes with the price. And sometimes people, like me, have to make a sacrifice.
James talks about this. She apparently has more coming soon. Very interesting. And also the question, is James more afraid than ever after all of this happening, after getting ousted from the company, directly after pulling that sting, and now moving forward, knowing that that company probably has a very close eye on him? So he gets into that. And then James talks about the only way forward. And then at the end, if you watch till the end, something very interesting / funny / concerning happens. Let's get into it.
Darlings, we're about to find out.
Let's find out, because James O'Keefe, newly unemployed due to this weird stuff that went down, perhaps because of the Koch brothers, we don't know yet. We found out that Veritas are funded by some interesting people. James, are you there, mate?
Hello there, Russell.
Oklahoma! How's it going?
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plains, where the wave and wheat can sure smell sweet when the wind comes right behind the rain.
I want the pension fund. I want it now. We're all going to wherever James O'Keefe is, and we are watching him do that, and I don't care where we get the money from. Tell Gary Stevenson we needs that money, baby.
In the intermission, I'll be eating some special sandwiches.
Yeah, make sure, yeah. And if there's not a baby growing in the belly of the person you take it from, it's hardly a sandwich at all. James, mate, tell us what happened. You set up that sting. Don't worry about that sandwich. Not interested in that. It's hullabaloo. Tell us about the Pfizer sting and how it went down, and then what happened subsequently. And if I have to talk, I'll hold up this thing that I've actually really pleased with. Thanks.
Well, this was the biggest story we ever did. This got 50 million views. It was one of the medical directors at Pfizer, Walker was his name. He was caught on tape talking about mutating the virus for Pfizer Pharmaceutical. He says, don't tell anybody. I confronted him at a restaurant in New York about a month ago. He took the iPad out of my hand. He smashed it on the ground, caught red-handed. And then about a week later, I was thrown out of the organization, Project Veritas, that I founded. Some very bizarre series of events here. But, Russell, I'm announcing today on your show my new venture. It's called OMG O'Keefe Media Group. I've got an elite team of 10 journalists. We're going to continue, including on the Pfizer beat, as it were. One of the whistleblowers inside Pfizer working with me right now to release more information very soon.
You know what's one thing I hope for everybody watching this is that you can bounce back in life as quickly as James did. It's like he got ousted from the company of which he founded, like he said, and immediately just kept working. You know, there was a little bit of a tearfulness within the farewell speech, but it's like as soon as he walked out of that building, he was just like, on to the next thing. We're not stopping.
So our mission continues on. I'm not done.
It's actually remarkable to see. And the fact that there's more coming out. See, this is the thing that people have been asking about. You know, like when I posted the first video about James talking at CPAC and him actually bringing out Debbie, everybody's like, oh, what did they do? They didn't really say anything, this and that. It's like these guys aren't just going to say things randomly on stage while they're supposed to be giving speeches and like just something quick. Every time you've seen James do something, it's always big. It's always a sting. It's always undercover. It's always a surprise. Always. I'm not saying like, oh, he has surprises for us, but if he is going to do something, it's going to be after research. It's going to be after a lot of vetting. It's going to be after a lot of recording of people, and it's going to be, you know, verified. You know, despite what some people might say, he does a lot of verifying, a lot of vetting. So they're not just going to bring out all sorts of information. They're going to do their due diligence, and they're going to package it up properly. Because what a lot of people don't realize about citizen journalism, the type of stuff that James does, you can't just put it out there. You can't just throw it out there like, here you go, this is what happened. You really do have to build it up like a story. You know, if you notice when he was running Project Veritas, you'd always see a recording at first. And that recording would be like, whoa, what is this? They would always break it down for you. They'd be like, this is what you're seeing right now. You'd watch the whole thing. You know, the whole media, well, not the mainstream media, but Twitter would be all abuzz with what just happened. And then a week later, maybe a few days later, you'd see James sit right in front of the person and say, hey, how you doing? And then do the whole thing that he does. Like this stuff doesn't just come out. So it's just, I know I'm talking a bit too much. Now we're going to hear James and Russell talk about Debbie a bit and what's going on that front.
Hey, like, weren't you helped by Debbie Bernal, a whistleblower? And she went public, presumably, what, for ethical, moral reasons? Why are the revelations that your sting brought to the forefront not being used to alter the activity within Pfizer or the way Pfizer are treated publicly?
Well, it's interesting. Debbie was one of two people at Pfizer who helped get the Walker story, right? We had to get people, give us the information, tell us where to go, who to find, and we identified this guy. Now, Debbie was unwilling to go public a month ago. She was scared. She had people stalk her at her home, her loved ones. They had a red van pull up and spy on her. They put her in a room, interrogate her. But after I was thrown out of the organization I founded, Debbie Bernal was inspired to go public last week. And apparently Debbie has more coming out. So this whole situation with me, whether it was Pfizer or whatever, retaliating has inspired a lot more people inside Pfizer to be courageous, to blow the whistle, to, you know, jump on the proverbial grenade. That's what they're doing. And they're going to this website up here. And I'm giving them cameras. My new vision is to equip thousands of people with these special cameras. And that's what we're going to do, Russell.
So it's very interesting that James says Debbie has more coming out, because although I gave a very heartfelt speech to you guys about Debbie when I was talking about the sacrifice she's made and how she did it for us and how so few people in the world do it, I still do believe that. But, of course, I still went and watched her very, very closely. I was on her social media every single day, and there was nothing. You know, she was actually spoke on a few spaces. You know, Twitter has spaces where you speak live. I made sure to go to every single one, and she didn't really say much. It was just like a lot of this back and forth, just talking, just bantering and whatnot. And so I was watching her very, very closely because, I mean, again, if I'm wrong about something, I'm going to come forward about it, you know, and also I'm going to seek out if I'm wrong. You know, I'm going to say what I think, what I feel, and what I found out, and then I'm going to go and try and find the opposite afterwards. That's just, I don't know, that just felt like the right thing to do. So I have been watching her closely. I can't wait to see what actually comes out. Also, within what James just said, we're starting to see a different structure than what he said on Twitter. Because on Twitter, he just wanted people to buy a camera and then send him a picture, and that was it, you know, to his email. Now he's saying that he wants to equip the whistleblowers himself. So it's a little different. So now his pricing structure kind of makes more sense, or I should say his subscription model or whatever you want to call it. It makes more sense now. So now we, the people, are giving him the money. He's taking the money, getting the cameras that are of quality, you assume, of course, and then finding whistleblowers, finding people who are on the inside and saying, okay, this is your camera. Do X, Y, Z. And we need you to go here. And we need you to report back here. A little different than what he first said. So I guess, you know, kind of, I don't want to say flying by the seat of his pants, but he's still figuring it out. We'll say that. But let's move on to the next part.
One question regarding the kind of power of Pfizer in the pharmaceutical industry. Has this whole episode and what's happened to you as a result made you more anxious and worried about the power of the pharmaceutical industry? Because it seems incredible from just some of the tactics you were talking about there.
I think it's made me more fearless and more focused and more driven and more motivated than I've ever been. Because while there's a lot of evil and darkness in the world, and these companies lie, and these companies lie to their consumers, there's also a lot of people that have reached out to me that are like, hey, I want one of those cameras. I want to make a difference in this world. I think there's a lot of evil, but there's also a lot of goodness, and the goodness is getting more motivated. So I walk away from this episode very inspired. This website I've launched, you can actually sponsor one of these cameras. They're about $1,000. I will put it in the hands of these whistleblowers and coach them. Obviously, ethics is very important as a journalist. You got to be careful how you do it. We have an elite team of 10 people I've identified that work with me. So to answer your question is I'm highly motivated. I'm ready to go. So
that last part, that actually answers my question just a little bit, because what he said was, you know, he's going to, you know, these cameras will be $1,000. He's going to put them in the hands of these whistleblowers. So I guess that makes sense, because if I'm willing to do it, I don't have a job at Microsoft. I don't have a job at Apple or Tesla, or I don't have a job, Moderna. I don't have a job at any of these places. So it's like I could be willing as anybody to do it, but I'm not in a position to do it. So that makes a lot of sense, because most of us that support James and feel for what he's trying to accomplish in the world, we're not in those positions. But we do have the financial backing, or able to supply him with the financial backing so he can give certain equipment to the people who are in those positions and are willing to do things like, you know, wear hidden cameras and whatnot. That makes a lot more sense. And I like how he brought up ethics as well. That also makes sense to what I was talking about, because let's say you and I decide that we're going to do a sting. We don't know what we're doing, right? It's like he's working with 10, 20, you know, and himself. Like, he's working with a bunch of journalists who have experience doing this stuff. They know what's ethical and what's not. And, you know, perhaps there are things that we couldn't even begin to think about. Maybe you have to ask questions a certain way. Maybe there's questions that you can't ask. Maybe there's ways that you have to ask them. Maybe you can't coerce somebody. Like, you know, there's certain things. So who knows? That makes a lot of sense. So question answered there. Now, let's hear James talk about the only way forward.
Doesn't it make you realize that the sort of tendrils of corporate power are so intrusive that they're able to oust you from a company that you founded? I hate it when that happens. I don't think that's right, because that makes me think, well, that could happen to me. Like, that's out of order. And what sort of actually happened? How did it sort of go from, oh my God, this is brilliant, we've got this revelation where someone's admitted that they're doing shady shit down Pfizer, to, James, I've got some news for you. Remember when you ate that sandwich of Sandra's? You shouldn't have done that.
And taken all those black cars to meetings. No, we shouldn't take black cars to meetings. Listen, I hear you. It's almost like it's a fear-based question, right? Everyone's afraid. The fear is the problem in our society. Everyone's so afraid, and obviously they're going to try to ruin the reputations of the people that expose them. But in response, what we have to do, the only way forward, is to build an army of investigators and exposers. And I think that
James has dropped off there, because what's happened is the mainstream have prevented him from broadcasting even one more word. He's been shut down, snatched, defunded, and cut off immediately.
So that wasn't just a glitch. That actually happened. They tried to get James back. They could not reconnect with him whatsoever. Pray for James. I think he's tweeted since then, so I think we're good. I think he's safe. But it is funny that right when he was about to say the company's name, he got cut off. That's why on this channel we treat that name like Voldemort. People laugh, but I stay away from that name. But what he was saying does make a lot of sense. I don't know if it's the only way forward, but it's definitely going to help. Like there will always be a need for documentarians and filmmakers and people who even work at news stations. There's always going to be a need for these various modes of journalism, always. But the one that's died off the most is and also hasn't been enhanced at all is citizen journalism. And they aren't given a platform. I think that's the big thing. They're out there and they can do it, and they can now bring what they find to Twitter. But if they're given a larger platform, a bit more backing, a bit more structure, I think that's something that can really go a long way. If you watch this far, thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It helps so much. We're about to be hiring researchers. We're about to be rolling out new shows. We're about to be doing more focused journalism type content. So every single subscription counts. Every view helps so much. Thank you for watching. I'm out.